Hello, welcome to another video. Umut here. Today, as you can see, I have my mini journals again. I'm going to create another one because I'm totally addicted to this now. It gives me a lot of pleasure to complete a journal with a concept from start to finish and have my mini journal to flip through in a very short time. Also, it gives me the opportunity to use my stash, because then I can use my unused scrapbook papers, booklets, die cuts, everything all together in a book, and I can make use of them. I'm going to show you, I wanted to make an introduction because you guys seem to enjoy these mini journals, and I wanted to give a few tips and tricks that would make your lives easier or maybe more enjoyable. So the mini journals I created until now, one was with art by Marlene, beautiful images, colorful, and I tied it with an elastic band and put my peacock and hearts. I'm just using the metals that I had in my stash for years and years, and I had no use of them. Now I have. And the other I made was with Elena Zinsky art, digistamps. Again, very colorful, joyful. And I did silver embossing. Here I experimented with gold, and this is also an elastic band which goes with my journal, and I have my metal embellishments. So I'm going for a concept here with the metals. And the last one is a magic magic. Again, I used mainly my winter scrapbook papers from Stamperia, Kaiserkraft, all these things that I had in my stash. Very wintry color scheme, so it looks very in harmony. And I used the silver elastic band with my metal embellishments again. So I did a few things when I while I was journaling. I discovered a few things made my life really easy. First one is I cut my journal pages beforehand. I prepared like 4 or 5 sets of journals, so I don't go and cut again and again. I mainly make a window here at the cover, but sometimes not, so I have a few options of both, because sometimes you want, sometimes you don't want. And I use the same die cut set, which I'm going to show you here, Marlene's mini journal by Studio Light. And I use all these die cuts inside to create windows or separate pieces that I can use in my journals. And here you can see one window, and in another it's just random. I don't know what I'm going to do, my concept or anything, but I just do it and then go for it and create something nice when I'm doing the journal. So these are ready with heavy cardstock, or I think the best would be watercolor paper that can take a lot of water if you're going to use sprays, paints, or mixed media paper. Both would work. As you can see, it's quite thick, mine as well. And another thing I have is I have my metal embellishments, or whatever you are going to embellish your pages with. When I bring these together, I am really happy that they kind of have a concept in themselves as well, but you don't have to. This is just me. I'm a little bit neat. And for elastic bands, I had these couple of elastic bands at home, but discovered that this is too thick. This is 3mm elastic band, and it's too thick for this hole. It's not so easy. It enters, but it's not so easy, and it can break this very gentle attachment there. So I discovered a 1 mm elastic band is much better. This is 1 mm, and this is also 1 mm, or I think two would be okay too. So what I did is, of course you cannot buy every color. I mean, if you can, good for you. I just bought one white, one black, one silver, and one gold. So I decided I'm going to embellish my art journals with these. I have pink at home, or other couple of colors as well, but apart from it I'm not planning to buy anything else. That will be fine. And in the times that I am doing like sitting, watching Netflix, watching TV, something that doesn't require my full attention, I am just planning the next journal concept. Say today's concept is crazy animals, crazy birds, crazy dogs and cats from Tim Holtz. I'm going to use these. At the times that I wasn't doing anything, I just cut these, stamped these birds, cut them, fussy cut them, and colored them while I'm just watching TV. So you don't sit when you want to create your journal and color them one by one when the page comes, or it takes a lot of time of yours that you are already tired. There's a lot here. So just a little trick that you can use other times to create pieces of your journal. As you can see, I also went around these with my black marker to get rid of the edges, so they are all ready to be glued down. This is to me fantastic. It lifts a lot of burden from the creating process, so I can just create my background, stick my images, and have a lovely time while creating. So I hope, I think that's all I have for now. While creating, I will, of course, we will go through the process and have other things to say, but in general I found that these helped me a lot to create the pages quicker and have fun more, focusing on the backgrounds, colors and design rather than cutting and preparing my images. So I hope this is useful, and let's create another journal page. So today's concept is, as I said, Tim Holtz crazy animals, and to create my backgrounds I'm going to use the smoosh technique with his inks, distress ink or oxides. I have my acetate, a little piece of packaging that is left over from other things. I'm going to smoosh my colors on this, and then I can apply it to my pages. I'm using all sorts of colors, but I'm going to give you links down below for the products I'm using from one of my favorite craft shops that I am shopping. So you can use those links to reach to the products that I am using. So as you see, all I am doing is smooshing the inks, spraying some water, and then pushing my pages onto this acetate paper, and according to what I get, I do it again and again. In between the smooshes I'm drying my pages so that I can get layered backgrounds instead of everything blending into each other because they are wet. If you dry in between layers, it will look so much more in depth and satisfying. As you see, I dried my pages, and to give more darker colors I'm just going to go around the edges with my vintage photo oxide this time. It doesn't matter, use whatever you want. I just find oxides blend softer because they have pigment ink as well, and I'm going to just this is going to be my cover, so I'm just finishing it to see where I will end up According to this, I'm going to design the next pages so that they all match in style. I'm going to go around the edges with a black suit as well. And next I wanted a tiny bit pop of color, so I used wild honey to give this more vibrancy. And again I'm using some black soot to just balance for it again. And don't forget to ink up the edges even in your window, so your project looks nice and neat. So here it is, this is my cover, and I did just the same inside the cover, inside pages, smooshing and some inking, so that I can do the same style for the rest of my pages. Now I'm going to choose different color palettes for each of these pages to create my background, and I'm just going to do the same process again and again, which is really relaxing. And it is my meditation. I always say mindfulness activity, playing with colors and seeing how they react, and what kind of backgrounds I get, especially these processes that gives you a little bit more surprises than others. So I really like this technique. And after I dry my pages, I see it, and I decide to add more color or not, and which colors. So I really enjoyed this process. I would highly recommend. This part of the video is 4 times faster, so if you want to, because we will be here forever if I don't speed it up, but if you want to watch it slower, you can always play with the settings. There's a button on the right bottom corner that you can change the speed. For this part, I'll leave you with some nice music and catch you back when I finish the backgrounds. So here we are. I'm now going to show you how I colored my focal points and what I used. I used these crazy mini cats, mini dogs, and crazy birds collections, and I have the die cuts for the dogs and cats. Thanks, thank God, because they are little. And I used the masking liquid for the eyes after I stamped and cut them, so that I can color them easily. I'm going to use again the inks to color them. I'm going to show you two examples and consider I did the same for the rest. But again, if I go all of them, we will be here few hours. So I select a couple of colors for my cats, dogs, and birds, and I just use my finger dabber to color them in two colors very easily, as you see. So you see how easy it is. Instead of dealing with other mediums, I chose this way because I had a lot in quantity, and I'm simply fussy cutting it. I'm not bothering with, of course, the legs and the feathers. I'm going to stamp again. You will see how I do it to bring back those elements, and that masking fluid dries, and it gives you the chance not to color the eyes, and when you scrape it off, it just goes away. I took out my Arteza colored pencils as well to give some shadows to my image. I'm going to do this for my dogs and cats because I used only one color. They are tiny, and I'm using these colored pencils to give just some shadows and not to make it so flat. This gives a little bit depth. Again, you will find the links down below at the description area for Arteza products as well, together with a discount link as always. I'm just using my black pen to use on the nose and the collar of the dog, and I go around all my images with black marker to lose the white edges. As you see, my images are ready, and if the eyes are not bright enough, I'm just using my white gel pen again from Arteza, which is the best white gel pen in my opinion. So they are ready. Let's flip through these beautiful pages full of colors from my inks, and then we can start decorating them. I hope you played along with me and enjoyed the color splashes and swooshes and inking. And now it's time to decorate our journal. I have a lot of crazy animals next to me on my table, so I'm deciding which colors go with each page. I didn't plan this before, I just colored them, cut them. They are ready next to me, so I'm going to select them one by one. I'm using these stamps as background stamps, so I show you once and I don't show you every time I do it. BT Grunge, Tim Holtz, Art by Marlene, these ones, my text stamps, many of them. So we'll see how it goes. There's the music stamp from Kaiser Craft, some edge border stamps from Limor Weber, and I wanted to match one of the birds to the page behind the window, and I think it creates a nice contrast there. And before I stick my guys, the birds, cats and dogs, I just want to do some stamping. I took one of my background stamps and my archival ink in sepia, and I'm just giving some interest at the background. And I got another one to do the borders, and honestly you can use whatever you have in your stash. Just decide, you know, the whole point of my journals is use your stash, whatever you have that you didn't use. I didn't use these crazy animals for a while, so I wanted to just make use of them. And I'm using my Arteza pen again, in white gel pen to just doodle on my borders and make them pop more. I think black and white adds a lot of contrast to your pages, so I'm not afraid to use them. Always try to use them at some point, and you see how more brighter and vibrant it is. And here is I'm going to stamp my bird to give back those legs and feathers so that I don't need to draw myself. I decided to glue them one on top of each other. So I'm taking my Nuvo glue and just gluing down my bird, the cat and the dog on top of each other. And I think they are so cute already. At this point I think I'm going to glue down the next page, the page after, to the first one, and have the two pages together and not turning the page, and we'll see how it looks later. Now I'm going to decorate the back cover. I have this stencil that I cut through my digital cutter. It has branches, and I am using my sepia again, archival, with my finger dabber to go over it so I can have my branches. No worries here, I had this, but if you don't have, you can draw branches yourself. It's not such a difficult thing, and you can use your watercolors, your inks, your pencils, acrylics, everything. I will do the same thing. I'm going to glue down. I just stamped the birds again just to have the details. I'm going to glue down my birds, the cutouts. As you see, if you have these cutouts from before, your job becomes so much more easier. And I'll show you the elements I'm going to use as sentiments. Of course, Tim holds all chatters, stickers, everything. These are his alphabet stamps. This is foam stamp, the other is rubber stamps. I have three kinds: tall text, worn text, and other. I'm sure they are very much available, and I'm going to give you the links as much as I can to the things that I find. I decided to go with the worn text to write crazy. Of course, when I use all the crazy animals, the cats, birds and dogs, I don't want it to be worn actually, so I'm going to go over it with my brush pen. You can use any pen here, and I'm going to select three words from the big chatter one: friends, memories, and another one which is wishes. So it's crazy friends, crazy memories, crazy wishes. Kind of makes a complimentary sentiment for me. And I'm going around it with my black thin pen and my white gel pen, which is from Arteza. I always say it's my favorite by far. I think it's the best in the market, and I tried a lot. And for the back I chose Love and XOXO because these two guys seem quite happy there on the branches, and I'm doing the same things. Going forward, I'm not going to show you the highlights and the borders and the going around sentiments because it's going to get repetitive. Also inking the edges. But I showed you everything on this one, and I'm showing you the close-up pictures for you to see the details before I move on to the next page. I also did splashes with white and black. Let's move on to the second page. I have this stencil. It's from Crafters Workshop, if I'm not wrong. But please use whatever you have. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving some interest at the background. I just sprayed with vintage photo oxide, I think I used. And not to lose the other side, I'm just going to press it on another page. As you see, this way I have beautiful two pages already ready, and I'm sure this is oxide now because It's quite a chalky finish. I'm using another background stamp from Tim Holtz to go around the edges with my black archival ink so that I have a nice border as well. As usual, I'm just stamping my bird again to have the details, and I'm going to glue it down the body, and I will also use this dog on this page. I'm going to draw a line under the bird's feet to pretend that she's standing on a wire. I just drew it myself, as you see, freehand. And I'm going to paint my dog's tongue with red. I'm using my Posca marker, which is acrylic marker. And I'm going to use this sentiment, embrace imperfection, to my black splashes, which I'm going to repeat for every page, and also the black edges with my archival ink. From now on, I'm going to cut these scenes so that it doesn't get too long and boring. And here you can see the details in the close-ups. I love the effect of the stencil with the vintage photo. I think it looks really nice. And now I'm going to work on the other page that I pressed my stencil, and I'm using these leaves. This is from Dilutions border, and I'm going to stamp two, let's say I pretend these are branches with leaves, so that I can place my animals. And I'm going to color these leaves with my Posca markers again, acrylic markers. I find acrylic markers are fantastic over already colored backgrounds like inks, etc., because they are opaque and they will write over other mediums. So if you get a hang of them, Arteza also has acrylic marker set, I saw. So I'm going to put down below my discount code, and I will find their acrylic markers so that you can check them out and see if you want to purchase. I select my colors according to the color of my bird and cat and the background. And I decided to use another stamp for the borders because I thought it was too plain. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment, part of it. I'm writing trouble because these two look like they are onto something, so two together, trouble. I'm going to also use my brush marker to go over this because it has some patches, which is natural to the stamp, but I like bold and crisp. And I'm going to go do some shadows with my white gel pen also around this sentiment. I did some highlights and also my black splashes and black edges. Here is another page, and I'm using some oxide sprays again to give interest at the background. I'm using these two colors that you saw on the screen. Here goes the blocking again, but it's working, so no worries. I am also going to spray the other side because this is my double page, and I absolutely love how it looks, these two colors over the background that I did before. And of course I'm not going to waste the other side of the stencil, and I'm going to again stamp it on another page. I got these die cuts from Tim Holtz Botanical die cuts, and I cut them, and to create some contrast I colored them with my Distress mini inks, and I'm just going to glue them over my page. All these things are from Tim Holtz Botanicals die cut, flowers botanicals, something like that, and the branch as well is there. I'm going to glue the branch. I used inks to color all these flowers. You can use your sponge dabber or just smoosh them over ink. Put some ink on your table, spray some water and smoosh them over it. I just forgot to press the record when I was doing, so sorry for that. And I'm going to glue down these animals, my dog, my cat and bird. When I am using the animals, I try to create a sense of unity, like this cat is looking back at the dog and the bird is looking at looking down on both of them. And I'm just going to decorate the page, the rest of it, with these beautiful botanicals. And I'm going to put the little flowers over the branches so that I have the branches decorated as well. And you will see I'm going to use other thing in the middle of the flowers. And I decided to use my archival ink in cauliflower blue to do some stamping at the background, because again the oxides they give a ethereal kind of interest at the background, but I wanted something a little bit more bolder and more prominent, so I'm using this stamp as a background stamp. And again I'm going to use this worn alphabet for the part of the sentiment, and for the rest I wrote friends, so it's naughty friends. And I decided I wanted a border to my page too, so I'm using this border stamp at the edges of my page. I'm going to make some dots in the middle of this border with my white gel pen. Again, I'm just filling in the patches of this sentiment with my black marker, going around this France, because now we have black on the page. I did some white and black splashes as well, and darkened up the edges with the archival ink. And here are some close-up photos for you to see. I also went around the flowers with black pen. Here are some scrapbook papers that I had in my stash forever. Plates from long phone. It was back then, years ago, very popular, this type of pattern. So I bought loads of them. Now I regret a little bit, of course. They are in my stash for a long time, and I really want to use them. So I'm going to use a little piece of it at least on this page. I just cut a little bit from one of them and went around the edges with my black marker. I'm going to stamp, do the background stamping. This is Art by Marlene background stamp. So I'm just randomly stamping here and there, and kind of created a border as well. I went around this plaid background, the scrapbook paper, with archival ink to ink up the edges and darken them. And I'm going to glue down my cat and dog. My sentiment is strong together. And finally I'm going to also again make the dots inside these circles white, so I can lighten up the page a little bit more, and also do white splashes and black splashes. Here are the close-up photos for you to see. And for the next page I decided to go with this clouds stencil, and I'm going to do some stenciling with modeling paste. My modeling paste is from Liquitex Light Modeling Paste. From my experience, that's my favorite. It's very white and crisp and holds up well, creating a nice raised texture. Again, I have this little flowery thing from Tim Holtz die cuts, the same botanicals, and I'm just giving it color with pink distress ink, Picket Raspberry, I think that is, and it's because of the color of my bird, and it gives a really good contrast again. This time I was lazy to stamp my birds, and I'm just drawing it myself. I think it's completely okay. First time drawing according to where I see the birds, and I'm going to glue them afterwards. This is a kind of a love scene between these two birds in my mind. That's why it's with clouds, they are in the air, and talking to each other. And I'm going to do some border stamping too. I thought it was a little bit plain. And I use these squares, and inside the squares I'm going to fill with white with my white gel pen. I'm not filling them all, I'm doing one in, one out, so that it's more interesting. And I'm not going to show you all the process of this, it would be boring, but here it is. I'm going to do some splashes with dark blue, so it looks like rain. That was the objective. And I'm also doing some white splashes. I'm not going to do black on this page. And here is the result from close-up pictures. Next, I'm going to move to another page and use another stencil by Tim Holtz. This has the wooden texture. So I'm using my vintage photo oxide ink to go around all the page to create this wooden texture like a tree. And these are the animals I'm going to use on this page. I decided to do a little bit border as well with this background stamp. I'm just going to stamp my bird to give the details, and then glue down the bodies, and same for the dogs. As you see, my dog's tongue is not the color I want, so I'm going to actually paint it with pink acrylic marker so that it looks nice and neat. Also the color of the other dog as well. I decided I want to have a little bit pink at the background as well, and I'm going to use these little clouds to stick my sentiment. Cutie, sweetie friends. They look like good friends, especially the dogs are so cute. And I'm going to draw a simple branch to hold my bird. I don't want him to be hanging in the air. And I'm just smudging a little bit ground for the dogs as well. Seeing the pink on the page, I couldn't hold myself but reach for a stickles. This is a magenta color, so I'm going to do some details with this as well to give more interest to my page. And do the usual splashes and stuff. So here are the close-up pictures where you can see the stickers already dry and all the details and colors on the page. Next, I'm moving to this beautiful pink pages. I'm going to again give some interest at the background. I love this background stamp. It's a part of the Tim Holtz collection, and it makes things so whimsical. And this is from Art by Marlene, also a favorite, the barcode kind of background, and it creates nice borders. I'm going to color these botanicals again, the die cuts, with some green tones with distress ink. And also I'm going to ink up the edges with black because they look a little bit too light, and also it doesn't go with all the black of the page. So I'm going to ink up with black. Again, I'm trying to create some sort of scenery. The cat standing there and the other cat looking back as if it's looking back to the other cat. And there is a bit of green on both of my cats, so they match to the botanicals, and they create a nice contrast with the background that is pink. I also pay attention to these details, like creating contrast and so that there is visual interest. And I glued down my bird to stand over these plants, and drew the legs and feathers. And I'm going to do some green splashes this time to bring the page together. I'm going to stick down my sentiments, sweetheart, Cupid and Amor. I feel like this green bird is like doing matchmaking, so he is the Cupid between these two cats. This is the story I create in my head, and I'm going to draw some black hearts fitting to the scenery. Here are the close-up pictures, which I totally love this page with the pink and everything. Moving on to the next page, again on a mission to use my plaid scrapbook papers, I decided to use this stencil from I don't think it's Craster's Workshop, it's another brand, but I have no idea because it's been years. I'm going to just spray some orange and also use the back of it to create some texture as well. I'm going to also spray some abundant coral, which will give some red details. You will see that it will match. I'm trying to match to the scrapbook paper that I showed you at the beginning. And I'm going to do some borders with black, which will completely contrast with the vibrant colors. With the scrapbook paper, I cut them out in shape of some ground and some tree branches so that I can place my elements, my animals. And I'm just sticking down all my elements, making up the tree from the cutouts that I have from my scrapbook paper. I went around all the elements with black so that the edges don't stick out. And the last thing is to give a nice tongue to my dog. Stick the sentiment, colorful friends, and they really are colorful. So is the background. And here are the close-up pictures for you to see them. Moving on to the next page, I will work on another red background, and again I cut out one of my scrapbook papers sent to me by one of my lovely friends. So it's good to remember your friends when you're crafting. That's why I love sharing stash. I'm going to use this paper as a border. So I just cut out pieces with my paper cutter, and I'm just gluing them as if I'm creating a frame inside my page. After I create this frame, I'm going to do some stenciling with my Crafters Workshop stencil. This has all cameras in it, so I'm using my sepia archival ink to just go over my stencil, and I'm going to glue down my animals inside the frame. And you will see that my sentiment will be very fitting, friendship photo. And after doing all the splashes and details, it looks really cute. Next page is actually one of my favorites. We are not in Halloween or anything, but it turned out fitting for that. Nevertheless, I love it. I'm doing some background stamping at the background, and I'm using my stencil that I cut out with my digital cutter myself for the background. This is a tree. You can always draw it. It's nothing so difficult or different. Just a bare tree with branches, and there are some bats flying around. I'm going to glue down my tree on my cat on the tree as if she's scared and she climbed there. I'll glue down the other cat as well, and the sentiments are scared, boo, night, everything that fits into the scenery. And I decided to draw a quickie moon with my white gel pen. Nothing complicated, just a simple white circle in the sky. And I am finished with the page. Of course, I did the splashes and the black edges to complete it. And here are the close-up pictures. I really love it. They look so cute and scared, really. Moving on to the other page, I am back to brownish tones, and this is also one of my favorite pages. Actually, it's one of the last ones, I think. Journal. And I have these flowers again from Tim Holtz. They are die cuts, and I'm going to give them color with again distress ink. I'm making a combination of yellow and peacock feathers, and I think they look really vibrant over this more muted background. I'm using this chicken wire as a background with brown again, and I'm going to also stamp the leaves. I'm going to stamp quite a bit of leaves so that I can use my flowers as well. I'm using my black archival ink, and I'm going to use my Posca pens to give color to the leaves. Again, I'm not coloring all of them. This is more interesting, I think, and I'm just trying to match my acrylic colors to the flowers and my bird. And if you don't have these markers, don't worry, just use acrylic paints. It's the same thing. I'm just being lazy here and going the easy way rather than taking out my paints, to be honest. And I'm going to ink up the edges of the flowers too, just to give a little bit more depth and making them look more realistic. And I'm going to just glue them down over the leaves, and you will see that I'm going to use stickers in the middle as well. I took out a few colors that matches the color scheme here. One is Nuvo Crystal Drop and the other is Stickles, and just dropping in the middle. It's hard to stop doing it when you take them out, so I started just making dots at the background as well while I have it. I have a big collection of them and I can't get enough of them. Somehow I love using them. I think they give a little bit uplift to the page, which I like. And finally I'm going to glue down my bird as well and give the details like legs and feathers. Final touch is the sentiment, and I absolutely love the colors on this page. It's so bright and happy, and it says cherish memories. I did the white highlights with my gel pen and all the splashes afterwards, and I hope you can see the details and how beautiful the colors are. I came to this page where I have a window, so I'm going to decorate it accordingly. I'm just taking my archival ink first in fuchsia, vibrant fuchsia, and I'm doing some background stamping. I'm going to give these guys speech bubbles, so I'm just drawing them myself. I actually have the dies for speech bubbles, but sometimes I feel so lazy to take out the die cut machine. I think I'm going to buy a sidekick that is smaller so I can keep on the table and not be lazy to do the die cuts. But I think in this case they are simple enough so I can manage myself. I'm just using the distress inks to give a little bit color to these white ones because they will stick out a lot if they stay white. And I mixed a couple of colors that I see on the border actually at the front page so that they create a nice contrast at the same time look cohesive. I'm gluing down my crazy animals in grayish beige colors to make them stand out behind this colorful background. So I glued down my speech bubbles, and I'm going to stick sweet boy and best girl in each of them, and I'm going to draw a couple of hearts to complete this scenery. Next I'm going to play with my border. I'm going to play with contrasting these two pages so that they look visually pleasing. I cut out all these little flowers and these bones and other elements came from the cats and dogs, mini cats and dogs die cuts themselves, and I'm using my acrylic markers to give different colors to each of them, matching the colors on my page. So blue, green, pink, and I'm going to glue them as a border around the blue page so that I have a lot of interest between these two pages. I like to play with the border ideas like this. I think it looks very cute, and I'm going to do some white splashes to bring these two pages together, and of course some black ones like I did in the other ones. When you open that border other page, I think this page is too plain, so I'm going to do a border on this one as well. That will be closed when the page is closed. And of course I'm playing again with the same colors to give more interest to the page. So making some blue and green dots around these black borders. Also, I'm making white dots inside the blacks. I know it's a little bit pedantic, but hey, beauty is in the details, let's say. And I'm going to give a little ground to my cat and dog with my gelato. You can do it with other things as well. Watercolor pencils, paints. You don't need gelatos. So here are the close-up pictures. Of course, the same window has another side, so let's work on this now. I have this Caravelle Studio stencil and I sprayed over it with a vintage photo. However, of course, I forgot to record it, but it's the same process. This is art by Marlene stamp, and I'm going to use it to create a kind of rope. And as you can guess, I'm going to place my animals on it. I'm also doing some doodled background just to have an interest, and I'm going to place my cat over the rope. I love this cat. It looks super, I don't know, scared and startled, and I also used the stencil around the border, as you see, and I sprayed some red. So there is an interest on the back on the border as well, and it matches the red page inside. And the sentiment is take risks, be brave. I think it's quite fitting as well, and I'm doing some black splashes. I did some black splashes around the border and the page, and I decided to give a border again when you open the other page, so it's hidden under it. And here are the close-up pictures after all the splashes and borders. Now I'm going to bring the journal together. Finally, we are finished, and I'm really happy with it. And you will see page after page. It's some cuteness and happiness. I have this black string, it's elastic band, sorry, and I'm going to just put it from the holes and tie it at the back here. And I did the same process for all of them. You put it there and tie it here, and afterwards you can I tie it here really well, and then I just use it around again so that it creates a closure for my notebook. Again, if you want to watch my other mini journals, there is a playlist called mini journals in my channel, but I'm going to put the link down below at the description area anyway, so don't forget to check it out. I will also link down below the major supplies that I used. Not one by one, it will be difficult, not the stencils or background stamps. Maybe I will put a few, but the major ones I will definitely put the links. You will also find the link for Marlene's die cuts for this journal as well. The coins I use are also from Tim Holtz. And I always put one or two of them depending on the sentiment. In this case it says hello and play. I think it's again very fitting to the sentiment. As you see, I glued down these two pages together, so it's one cover now with a little opening. And I'm going to just flip through quickly to show you the final result. I told you it's page after page full of color, cuteness, nice sentiments and fun. That's why I love my mini journals. They look very cohesive all together. Although maybe you don't realize when you're doing it one by one, it is very satisfying in the end to see this a common theme and concept, and similar backgrounds, similar elements that make it one. And I love that feeling. It's for me, it's very satisfying. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed creating these, and had some cuteness and fun in the end, and a lot of inspiration. I hope you go and do yours, whether you use the dyes or you use your own materials, doesn't matter. You can either way do it. If you leave a comment, put a like, or subscribe to my channel, that will make me really happy, and that would be great support. Thank you so much. And thanks so much if you are still here and watch the whole thing. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time. Until then, stay safe and take care. Bye.